Sounds good. Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Steve's Boomercast Hump Day podcast. I'm Travis Hillis, Steve's middle son. I'm going to be the tech helper slash okay Googler slash whatever we need help with. I'm going to be trying to help us with the technical side of things, but we're really excited to have our first podcast today. I've recently got into podcasting, and my son Eli looks like he's coming in to join us as well in the background. So can you say hi, Eli?
Yeah. Hey there, Eli.
You say
Yeah.
this is 3 generations, father, son,
right.
grandson.
Yeah. How's my buddy doing?
We're doing good.
All right.
So
Awesome.
take it away, Daddy Hillis.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for setting this up, Travis, and look forward to learning as we go through the process. We want to make it fun and interactive and talk about, topics that are interesting. And I think one of the things we were going to first talk about is just kind of what it was like in the boomer days. When you look at the different boomer generations, what we did for fun as kids was one of our topics. And do you have Travis a list of topics there, or do I need to pull my list out?
Yeah, so I think for me, I was really interested in hearing some stories about you growing up in the 60s and 70s, Daddy Hillis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to talk about, and we don't on our next episode, possibly next week, I'm going to have one of my buddies, Joe, that's going to come on and talk some more about this, but we can kick off today with what we did for fun. Back in the question is, when you were 12 years old, and I guess, Paul, if either of the Pauls, we have 2 Pauls on with us, have any things to share would be good. But when you were 12 years old, on a Saturday morning, when you got your free day, what did you do for fun? And one of the things that I most remember about that time period is we had a buddy of mine, my neighbor Eddie across the street. We got together and we found this 2x12 old piece of lumber, and we decided we was going to make a go-kart. So I guess back then I don't think Walmart sold go-karts, so we had to make our own. And we found at the junkyard some old wheels that were close to the same size, and got them put on and made us somehow we found a bar that made an axle, got a rope for the front steering to where we could turn it and steer it. Of course, we didn't think about brakes, but we once we got the wheels on and a rope tied to it where we could steer this go-kart, we went to try it out, and my house was right at the base of this big hill that was a street, of course, Durham Drive. So we pushed it up to the top of the hill, and he jumped on the back, and I'm driving this thing, and we go flying down this hill, and this was a steep hill, and we get to the bottom, and the front, something happened, the front wheel or the axle broke or something, and so we go skidding off to the right. There's this ditch, this creek that ran right by my house, and so this concrete abutment was right there, and we we slammed into that thing, and he and I both were all skin up, and we're bloody, and busted my knee wide open. I've still got a scar on my right knee that'll be there, till I die. Because I go go into the house crying to my mother, and I'm all busted up and bleeding, and she just looks at it and said, "Yeah, go put a butterfly on it." You remember that, Paul? When instead of getting stitches, you just put a butterfly Band-Aid on it.
Well, and we didn't have something fancy as a butterfly. We just pulled a Band-Aid real tight, but you always had to put iodine or methylate on it. And before you could do that, and it stung like holy heck. So most of the time, I just wouldn't go home because it hurt too bad. I'd try to get a Band-Aid from a buddy of mine.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was that was one of my favorite memories about what we did for fun. We pretty much had to kind of make our own way, but Paul, what do you remember when you were 12 years old in that era that you would do for fun on a Saturday?
Well, we'll go alphabetically because Paul's name is Hayes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we'll let Paul Hayes go because I'm a trow. I'm used to going last.
Okay.
What grade was 12 years old anyway?
Oh, let's see.
Sixth.
Seventh grade?
I'd say it's around 5th or 6th grade,
Yeah,
probably.
it was 6th grade for me.
You know how they are with knives and so forth, and safety and super overkill with that kind of stuff in schools now. I remember in 6th grade, we used to play mumbly tag.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
taking a pocket knife and pitching it up in the air and letting it stick in the ground.
Okay, yeah. I did that before, but I never realized it was called mumbly peg.
I believe that's what I remember it being called.
Yeah. You spread your fingers out flat.
Yeah, so we would go to school with no thoughts about it, with knives in our pockets.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't think you get away with that today. Of course, if you carry an AR-14, you might get in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember marbles, where we would all collect marbles? Marbles was a big deal.
Yeah.
You had a shooter, and you had glassies and Pearies and the whole thing.
Yeah.
You remember Steelies?
Steelies, yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Ball
No,
bearings?
what was it? What was a Steely?
A ball bearing. Just a
Okay.
big ball bearing.
And that was
but they had a lot of mass, so if you shot one, it would hit a lot of marbles.
So that was one of your marbles, was a Steely. Yeah, I remember.
I used to have a big bag of marbles.
Yeah, I did too. And I remember one weekend I took my marbles over to my grandparents' house, because we'd go over there on weekends and eat. And I had my bag of marbles, and my grandmother saw it, and she just pitched a fit because she thought I was gambling by playing marbles.
She thought you were throwing dice.
Yeah. So, and you could get in trouble. You could get sent to the principal's office if you were caught with marbles at our school, because I guess it kind of got out of hand at one point.
Well, we would have thrown them at each other eventually, and that's probably why.
Or some wiseacre would come to school with a slingshot.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
We used hickory nuts here in Georgia, and they weren't aerodynamically perfect, so you had to figure out which way it was going to curve. And if you got hit with one, you knew it.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, we had the paintball guns. I remember that was about as close. We never did the marbles, but we had paintball guns.
Wow.
Yeah, paintball, where you could go to a paintball facility or place and pay to go through and shoot each other. That is a lot of fun.
Oh, we didn't have that. We had to make up our own. Tagging on Paul's story of throwing knives up, I got a bow and arrow target set when I was 12. We were living in North Miami Beach. We moved all around, and got tired of shooting at the target. So 3 or 4 of us went down to the park, and we drew like a 10-foot circle, and we'd stand in it, and we'd take turns shooting one of the target arrows straight up in the air. And the first one to look up and run out of the circle lost. Now, fortunately, we were never good enough to shoot it straight up and straight down because it would have killed one of us. I'm absolutely certain.
Yeah.
But we thought that was we thought that was great fun. Though when you're the middle child, you think a lot of stuff is fun. And we
Yeah.
used to ride. They had mosquito sprayers that they would send a county truck down your street with about an 8-foot wide beam, and they'd spray probably raw DEET in the air to kill the mosquitoes, and we'd ride behind them on our bicycles. And Steve, you're probably thinking that explains a few things about Paul, because I'm sure that did something to him.
Yeah, that's
But we
It's-
played outside. You can drive through neighborhoods now.
yeah.
I don't see anybody playing outside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Travis, you've got Eli's older brother, Emerson. He's about 12 years old. What does he do? The even younger generation, what do they do on a Saturday now for fun?
A lot of times it is hanging out with friends. And I think I sent you some pictures from Saturday when college football was on, and my boys were out with the neighborhood kids throwing football. And
That's good.
we've done pretty much every sport imaginable with Emerson, and we're trying to get Eli into whatever sport he would like to do. But it was. Talk about being a proud dad. When I saw Emerson drop back with a perfect Peyton Manning quarterback stance, because he's always had a cannon and he's always been super accurate with his arm. But it was really cool to see them running around with their friends. Emerson's really into books. He loves science and technology. He has this thing called a Tinker Box that Uncle Shane, my younger brother, bought him, where he builds robots and does all these cool physics projects. So he's really into that. And he games. Gaming is huge. I mean, every kid is a gamer, and they do like World Series of Xbox and all this stuff that's just unimaginable for my generation growing up. To see them there, when I was born, it was a fully analog world. I mean, like you were saying, Paul, earlier before we started, we had one computer. It was a big deal in the 90s when we got a computer with the AOL and the it was mind blowing. And now there's a phone and a computer and a tablet in every room. And the biggest challenge for me is to get them to unplug and to really monitor and set expectations for screen time, because it's very it's easy to get immersed into it, and you can turn around and the kids have been on a screen for 2 hours and they need to take a break and do something else. But but they're good kids. Eli's he's my warrior. He's a champion. So he's I'm not worried about him. I mean, he's got a motor like you wouldn't believe, and he's go all the time. So with both of them, it's like turn the screens off, get outside and have some fun.
Yeah. Something I've observed about the grandkids and just kids at that age these days, they're so much smarter than I was when I was 10 or 12 years old. And I think a lot of it is technology. I mean, these days, you want information, just Google anything, right? And it's instant information. And, we just didn't have that, of course. And so I think, when I'm with Emerson, for example, and we're just talking, the knowledge level that he has as a 12-year-old just blows me away. I mean, he can talk about so many subjects, and I think that's one big advantage, that technology has brought, is that kids are learning earlier. They're really developing faster than probably we did back in our day, just because of access to information. And I'm sure, finding a way to limit screen time. Heck, that's not just for kids these days. That's for all of us. I go to business meetings and people are just sitting there. On their phones, and you're trying to get their attention. You're trying to have a conversation. These things have just become like attached, almost attached to our body.
Yeah.
Well, at 12 years old, you could tell, or one of the biggest status symbols when you were 12 or 13, when I was growing up, is if someone had their own phone in their room, because that was just absolutely unheard of. I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody had their own phone, I knew a girl that had her own phone and her own phone number. I mean, nobody thinks anything of that today, but their own personal line in their room at 12 years old. And that's a bit extreme, but you know, that's the difference today.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. You know, and it's speaking about phones, you know, I remember when I got my first cell phone, I mean, I thought that was a big, you know, I thought I was James Bond 007, you know,
Yep.
with this big, it was about as big as my laptop almost. And back then, you know, when you're making, I was in sales and out traveling 3 states, and before I'd leave, one of the things you plan for is you get your, you know, you get your dimes and your quarters.
Yep.
You got them in the car, because I've traveled remote parts of North Dakota and Minnesota, and you know, there's going to be a phone booth, you know, in every little town, and airport, or just about any public building. So you could always get to a phone booth, but you'd have to have your coins ready to get through. So that's something. Do they even have phone booths anymore? I think they've taken them out at the airport. I don't even see.
Yeah,
It's been so long since I've even seen one.
no. You know, and the greatest technological invention that bridged from dropping money in the payphone is when we got the AT&T calling cards, and you dialed a number and it knew it was you, and then you could dial long distance without having to enter all that stuff in. Because when we got calling cards and we were traveling, that was fantastic. I mean, that just that was because you didn't have to carry change anymore. You know,
Right.
Today, if you can find a phone booth, I wouldn't turn my back using it, because it's
No. The only one I know of is at a sports bar where they have an old timey British one, like the Austin Powers.
Yeah.
It's there ironically.
Yeah, it's not it doesn't work. There's no working.
No, of course not.
Yeah. I just remembered where the last time I saw a phone booth that worked, and I actually used it. And this was, let me think, 3 years ago. This was before COVID, maybe 4 years ago. And I was on a mission trip in Cuba, and I've actually got a picture of me standing there at the phone booth using it. But they of course that's a backwards country, but they still have them there. But that's the last time I saw one.
Well, now, where are you from, Steve, originally? Where'd you grow up? Where were you 12 at?
I was 12 in Dalton, Georgia.
How about that? Hey, Paul? The other Paul Hayes?
Yeah, I was 12 in Dalton, Georgia, and we were in the community of Donville.
Oh, I know all that area, and I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
I attended Donville Elementary.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a rental house in Donville. That I know where that is. Paul, that's over not far from the country club. If you played golf at the Donville Country Club.
Yeah.
It's just kind of northeast of that, just a little bit.
Yep. I was City Park in the first grade, Brookwood in the second, and then from the 3rd through the 8th, I was in Donville Elementary.
Yeah.
Well, I went to 13 schools in 12 years, and I went to one of those schools for 4. So
Were you part of was yours a military family?
No, my dad was in the carpet manufacturing business. He started with Sequoia when I don't know if you know the story of Sequoia, but there was a reverend in Oklahoma who found out that he could get subsidies to put the Indians to work. So he started Sequoia Carpets, and it was in Anadarko, Oklahoma, which, that's the epicenter of carpet, manufacturing these days. That's where he started at. So,
really,
every new promotion, every new job meant a move. We went, Louisville, Oakland, Berkeley, back to Louisville. We went to 3 places in Miami, New Jersey, and then we moved to Atlanta in 1969. And if you want to talk about culture shock, this will be another story for another day.
Yeah.
Moved from Livingston, New Jersey, which is a bedroom community. My dad worked in Midtown Manhattan in the Empire State Building. And
Wow.
the schools were different, the curriculum was different, and the people were different in 1969. You remember what 69 looked like.
Yeah.
And I show up to Clarkston High School in Clarkston, Georgia, lived in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Okay.
And I show up midway through Spanish class looking like I looked. Let's just say that they wouldn't have been any more surprised if an alien had strolled in, and I looked
It was
like one.
groovy,
I'll tell
baby.
that story another time, but I can tell you right now, if people want to know why I am the way I am, and I'm not afraid to meet new people or try new things or what have you,
Uh-huh.
that was one of those tempering experiences.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
cool.
man. Yeah, I bet. You know, the only carpet company that I was ever aware of in Oklahoma was Hollytex. Did that?
Well, they were
eventually-
actually a spinoff of that.
Okay.
Because at that time, that was the commercial side. And Sequoia also, they had distributor lines.
Mhm.
At that time, Mills had distributor lines because you still had a lot of carpet sold through distributors. And then it got absorbed by Hollytex, and I think that got absorbed by Welco. But yeah, no, did you ever know Mac Hale?
Not, I know the name, but
Okay,
I didn't
yeah.
really know him
Well,
well.
that's how I met him, because he was the pilot for the Sequoia plane. And
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
anyway, you know,
Cool.
but
Yeah.
but at 12, I was hanging samples in showrooms for my dad, you know,
Yeah.
before
That's
marketing.
good.
So, yeah, not so
Good.
much. That wasn't as much fun as you think, because
I hear you.
yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you guys joining on. And again, we're just now kind of obviously getting our feet under us and figuring out maybe before next week, I'll figure out how to use my headset and get things rolling. But yeah, pass the word to all of your Boomer friends, and our game plan is every Wednesday night at 6, we'll just do a fun interaction and have different guests that will come on. I got to tell you, my buddy Joe, since it's just us, well, no, I can't do this because this is going to be, this will be on a episode, right?
Yeah, Zoom might cut you off. We have a few
Okay,
seconds
all right.
left.
All right. Well, I'll tell that story later then about my buddy Joe. But thanks for joining us, Travis. Thanks for setting this up, and you guys have a good weekend coming up. Today is Friday, isn't it? It feels like Friday.
Yeah, don't tease
I
me.
wish it was Friday.
Yeah, man.